Well, it's always an honor to have on one of the great A's of all time, A's Hall of Famer. Dave Stewart joins us here on A's Cast Live, and ambassador to the franchise. And I think you absolutely have to love the new role. I mean, you take over for Ricky Henderson. By the way, my condolences on your lifelong friend. I know how much he meant to you in your life. You guys were like brothers, and I think you taking on this role is not only big for you, but it will always honor his legacy.
Yeah, it will be, and it is good to be, connected to the organization in this way. I don't know if it's so much the ambassador role. Ricky, had obligations with, that he did for the baseball team with Dave Calvel and with, John Fisher. My role is really more administrative as well as development. Dealing with the major league club. Also getting out and seeing our affiliates, all of the affiliates. Ricky picked the ones that he wanted to.
Where he'd like to go?
Yeah.
Well, this is something that's interesting, and that's something that, whether you and I did television together or did an interview like this, I always like to highlight your baseball journey is amazing because it's just not World Series champion, World Series MVP and all of that and all the all-star and all that great stuff. It's like you were a general manager. You were an agent. I mean, everything. You were a pitching coach for a team, the Padres, that went to the World Series. I mean, you've done everything basically in baseball, hopefully to someday also be an owner to connect everything. So when they say bring Dave Stewart in, I mean, you understand what it's like to be a GM, assistant GM, a pitching coach. You get all of this.
Yeah, and that's what's fun about this. I put a uniform on in spring training. Right now we got the major league team here. We've got mini campers here, so dealing and working in and out of those, having conversations with different players about different aspects of their game. 2 days ago now, Scott Emerson allowed me an opportunity to just work one-on-one with JP Sears, and so, this is there's no other word for it. It's a lot of fun. Being able to dip and dab into the different areas of organizational baseball, but trying to have a huge impact. For me, the biggest role for me in this is really dealing with the minor leaguers, dealing with development. That's why the title is Assistant to Player Development, because I want to have impact on the players that are coming into the organization, hopefully having an opportunity to groom them into the professional baseball way of playing baseball, having them understand the journey in front of them, but more importantly, having them get a realization of who they are as players so that they can excel in the game.
You think about drawing back from your own experience, from your own career. You got the highs, you got the lows, and then you go back to your time in the front office and dealing with that. How much do you take everything that you've done and you've really kind of, I don't want to say it's become like an expertise of yours, but you have so much experience doing all this to help these young players get to where they want to be in their journey?
Well, I think the big piece is that, I've worn their shoes. Literally, yeah. I've worn their shoes. I was never, when drafted, I was never touted as, a big prospect. I was a guy that was a football athlete that they took a chance on to play baseball, and it turned out well. But as time went on, I didn't win baseball. I didn't win a baseball game for the first 2 years of my professional career, and that's a learning process. And it's there is a player or two that are going through that same thing, and so I can identify with those guys, as Sandy Koufax did with me.
And I always love that, by the way.
Yeah, so,
because you came up with the Dodgers. I mean, now what everybody thinks of the Dodgers, but you came up the old school Dodger way. There was a thing called the Dodger way, and you came up to that. And like you said, Sandy Koufax.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Sandy was my guy. He took time and he explained to me his path. Not being a guy that had, great control. Guy that, in his own words, he was wild and he could not command the strike zone, and he had to learn how to do that. And so for me, there's a player here that is that player. There's a player here that is me in my young days. And then, like I said, the other day, you were sitting there and having communication with JP Sears, telling him the things that I saw watching him from the broadcast booth, and having conversation between the two of us to understand where he wants to be and how I can help possibly get him there, if I can possibly get him there. And then there's going to be the other guys that they may be one pitch away from being a good major league pitcher. Well, guess what? I was one pitch away from becoming a good major league pitcher. I may be able to teach somebody the fork ball or the split finger, the mechanics of it, the mentality of it, and what you should be thinking when you throw that pitch. And so it puts me in a lot of areas. Ricky was truly an ambassador for the team. He showed up at, different functions for the team in a capacity for, Dave Calvo and Mr. Fisher. Those things I will do if asked to do it, but I'm really more into the player personnel side of it. I will have appearances in Sacramento and, either sit on the bench or sit in the seats, whichever I choose to do, to watch the players, but to evaluate players and give my input at year's end or during the course of the year. Coach has asked me to always make myself available if I see something that can be helpful to him, and Emo has said the same thing. And so it's more of an open door now to do those things.
And by the way, who taught you that forkball?
Sandy Koufax.
Sandy Koufax. The legend Dave Stewart is with us here, A's Hall of Famer on A's Cast Live. Being a part of this, you've been around it now for a while, obviously doing all the TV work that you're doing for NBC California, NBC Sports California, to now watch the culture change, this new group of young players coming in, to know that Severino was signed, big free agent contract, Rooker got the extension, and then you were a part, you got to see it when the announcement for Mark Kotsay in his extension. Just talk about all the change lately you've been seeing with this organization.
Well, it's all for the good, I can tell you that. A lot has been said about Sacramento playing in a small stadium, in a minor league stadium, but that's still, in my mind, and outwardly, it shows that David Force isn't bothered by that. David Force is trying to put together the best baseball team he can possibly put together, whether it's in a minor league ballpark or when it becomes a big league stadium. He wants this team to be competitive. They went through a period 2 years ago where, it was the worst baseball you'd ever seen, and I don't think anybody would dispute that. Last year, they made some steps. Brent Rooker has become a focal point of this team. He's a guy that has displayed leadership even here in spring training. Lawrence Butler has now taken a different position. He's taken a different step. Shea Langoliers, though, when you look at the actual batting average, you probably say wasn't that great of a year, but when you look at the actual numbers and when you look at the leader that he was behind home plate for those pitchers, huge steps by him in maturity. And so then you add in, Leclerc in the bullpen, you add in a Severino at the front end of the rotation along with J.P. Sears, and you can't put J.P. Sears out of this. This guy made 32 starts for 3 straight seasons and has been competitive. He's been the most dependable pitcher that they've had the last 3 years. And so you look at all of that, and then Ursula now comes in to play third base. It's a pretty good baseball team. When you look at, you're hoping that Zach Geloff returns to the form that he showed in his rookie season. You're hoping to see that. J.J. Bleday was a big piece last year. So, they've got some pieces that make this team someone that you have to watch out for.
Baseball has changed a lot from when, you guys were starring for the Athletics in the late 80s and the early 90s, where you knew who your rotation was. And I think you saw that change as a general manager and as assistant general manager all the time in your front office, where you need more starters. You just need more and more and more. And, interviewing J.T. Ginn and Hogan Harris and Brady Basso, the guys that you're gonna be in contact with and help make better. Just talk about the stable. There's more than just 5. There is a group, and you got to have a large group of guys with all the injuries going on.
If you're gonna have a rotation, in the general manager's position, what I was hoping to have, I wanted to have at least 10 starters. That's what I wanted to have. I wanted to have that availability in case of injury. I wanted to have that availability. I think that this organization now has depth in that position. They've got some guys that they can go to. They've got some guys that they can go to that I think give this organization depth. And you're going to need that during the course of the year. I think when you look at even the young players, position player wise, they've got some guys that they can go to that got some genuinely good experience last year for this team. And in some cases, they really, really played well. Schumann was a surprise, I think, for most people last year, playing the different positions, doing the things that he did on the field to help this team win baseball games. And so you've got depth in there. Hernandez, last year was an experience for him. Probably wasn't the type of major league season he wanted to have. But coming into this year's season, I think he's going to be well prepared. I think he did some things in the offseason that gave him the opportunity to make adjustments, do some things that are going to make him a valuable piece of this major league club or to compete for a position on this club. And we've got some rookies that are going to be, and when I say rookies, I'm talking about it. In last year's draft, we're talking about guys. We got big power hitting first baseman.
Kurtz is a big kid, right?
Yeah. We've got some guys that are making an impression in spring training, which is what you would hope they will do. They'll come into spring training, make an impression. Go to AAA, have a good season, put up numbers, show the consistency, and at some point, as we did with a lot of the kids at Geloff came up, Lawrence Butler came up, those guys came up all at the same time, and they had impact in the second half of the season. So maybe we'll see that type of play this year as well.
In the end, when you put the uniform on, how good does it feel?
Because
it looks great.
I enjoy being in the uniform, Tommy.
It looks great.
I swear, I enjoy being in the uniform. I enjoy it. I like putting on the green and gold, circulating amongst the guys. I appreciate the comfort of being around these guys and them making me comfortable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think there's another feeling better than putting on a major league uniform.
Just Dave Stewart and the A's go hand in hand.
I would like to think so. I would like to think that that's part of the reason why I'm here.
And I want to thank you for everything you've always done for us. And I know I've told you this before, but it's like not many times in my career do I kind of get giddy, but I'll never forget like the first time years ago when they told me that, oh yeah, you're going to do A's pre and post game live with Dave Stewart. And I was like, holy yes, Mom, I'm working with Dave Stewart, right? Because when I was in high school, as a high school baseball player, I knew I was only going to play in college, but I was going to go play in college. And you were one of the guys that we all looked up to because you and the A's, when I was in high school, you went to 3 straight World Series. You were the players. And just your career as an agent, front office, soon to be hopefully owner in Major League Baseball. When you talk about a baseball life, I don't know if there's many journeys and as somebody's worn as many hats as you have in this game. It's been very impressive. So just thank you for always being there for us. And I think you being here with the organization is one of the best moves they made this offseason.
Thank you, Tony. And I appreciate all that we've been able to share together working for NBC. And I don't see it being any different going forward. I don't have to work for the station and still have that type of relationship with you.
You are the man.
Thank you.
The great Dave Stewart, A's Hall of Famer, right here on A's Cast Live.